Like, there's a bartender in my town that I onboarded to Bitcoin because he heard me talk about it. He's like, Derek, you know what? You talk about Bitcoin. I'd like to start, doing like a buy like every paycheck or so. And then he thought it was so cool. He got tons and tons of Bitcoin. And then one day I went into the brewery and I said, hey, you use wallet of Satoshi. You can't use that anymore on your iPhone. He's like, well, why? And I said, it's really complicated, man. Let me just set you up with something else. This will be better. You're in control of this wallet. It's called Phoenix. You can run it, and I get him set up with that. And then like 6 months later, I'm like, hey man, listen, like that other wallet I told you that you'd be in control. Yeah, you're not in control. They decided to leave the United States. So you know what? Fuck it. I set him up with Strike, and people will give me shit because, oh, you're setting him up to get rugged again with KYC and all this other stuff. But you know what? No, I want him to use something that is going to continue to work. Strike has licenses all over the United States. They're KYC'd out the ass. Strike's not going to go away. Fingers crossed.
Mr. Derek Ross, thank you so much for joining us today and being a playable character in a sea of non-playable characters. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
I was joking with everybody. This world is devoid of critical thinking. We've outsourced all of our thinking, and we're trying to be playable characters and critical thinkers. And when there's so many people that are non-playable characters, NPCs. So I would love for you to, you're doing so much work in the NOSTR world. I would love for you to maybe just share even what's on your mind. Depending on the guest comes on, sometimes I have something I want to ask them right away. Which, I mean, NOSTR is a big thing I want to ask you about and talk about here. But what's on your mind? I feel like sometimes you kind of like you go into the shadows. You're working underground, and then you'll pop out, and I'll see you a bunch, and then you're kind of going to work and doing stuff. So I'd love for you to kind of just give a rundown, a summary of what you've been doing, what you've been working on, what you've been thinking about when it comes to Bitcoin and NOSTR.
So I think NOSTR allowed us to get back to this human element of social interactions. For the past few years, we depending on what social platform that we're using, there's all sorts of rage algos that are making us see all this like angry fight, engaging content, but it does it to keep us engaged. And half the time, we would leave social media feeling angry or upset, and that's not who humans are. So I think that NOSTR allowed us to kind of start over in the social aspects of online and kind of rebuild relationships and focus on relationship building and then focus on building. So what I kind of fell into was this growth and building cycle, I guess, on NOSTR. I really like community building and relationship building. It comes very natural to me, and I love talking. You can ask my wife or any family member, and they'll be like, "Yeah, he doesn't shut up. Like, he talks all the time." So it works for my personality. I get to communicate. I get to talk. I get to build. It works well. So the past year and a half, I've been kind of just doing that on NOSTR. I've been a NOSTR evangelist, an advocate, talking about why I think NOSTR fixes a lot of the problems with social communication, and of course how it ties into Bitcoin, how the two have a beautiful symbiotic relationship to one another. They may not need one another, but man, they're powerful as hell when you combine them, right? So I've been talking about that and traveling around the world to various Bitcoin conferences and NOSTR, but talking about this, highlighting why I believe in NOSTR, why I'm a big NOSTR bull. And if you're a Bitcoiner and you understand decentralization and censorship resistance, why it's not a far leap to understand the importance of NOSTR, the importance of freedom, communication. So I've just been doing that. Was most recently at BTC Prague, and I would say that is probably the biggest endeavor that I've tackled with the NOSTR community over the past year and a half. I ended up doing a fundraiser to crowdfund Bitcoin, to crowdfund funds to be able to get this booth at BTC Prague in the Czech Republic. And it was a beautiful community effort because I was able to basically focus energy from the entire NOSTR ecosystem and get developers and fans and believers to all come together and put funds towards something they believe in, of trying to grow NOSTR. But only we were going to do it in meat space. So we were going to do it in the real world. And we had one of the largest booths at BTC Prague, which ended up being, in my opinion, the busiest booth at BTC Prague. We always had a string of developers there, a string of curious people wanting to know what NOSTR is, or people that use NOSTR and wanted to talk about it and figure out what the devs are building and get support for, what they're doing on NOSTR. So it was a really just a passion project that I was very happy to see come to light. And, I want to do it again. I want to do it at another conference. It was really good. It was really exciting. And I'm hoping it's not the last chance I get to do that.
How was you and I briefly talking offline a little bit, but just Prague in general? I know you said it was amazing overall. Like it was looked big. I mean, just like what was the overall experience like?
Well, first we'll talk about the city Prague. It's beautiful. Like the architecture is like that alone, like outside the conference was absolutely beautiful. My wife and I walked around the old town, the city center, and just the architecture there, the buildings, castle, cathedrals, the cobblestone streets, everything was beautiful, which correlates to the energy at the conference too, because it was very high signal at Bitcoin at BTC Prague. There was no shit coining. It was all very bullish people, very high signal people, and everybody there was looking to contribute to the Bitcoin or NOSTR ecosystem. And it was one of the better conferences, that I've been to, I think. And yes, it's a hike to get there, depending on where you live. If, me being in the United States, but man, if you can go, it's a large conference, but it's not overly large. There was maybe 6,500 people in attendance, something like that. I don't remember the exact numbers, but the expo area was huge. The expo area was huge and just filled with great vendors.
We want to thank our sponsor. This show is presented by Bitcoin Trading Cards, an orange pill in a pack, making talking about things that normally make you want to cry fun and easy. The scarcest and most educational cards to ever exist. Available now.
What did you, I guess, what do you say to people who are thinking of going to conferences and just, getting into like meet space, like you said? It could be Bitcoin meetups too, obviously, like just, local meetups. I mean, what do you say to people who are kind of looking to do that, or maybe have thought of it before and just haven't?
Well, so I think that building human relationships, building your community is very important, especially, as Bitcoiners or NOSTRs, people that are, using something that not everybody is into yet. You want to be around like-minded folks. You want to talk to people about things that you're interested in. And generally speaking, none of my real life friends don't listen to me talk because they're good friends, but they don't have any clue what I'm talking about, and they're kind of mainly one-sided conversations. And after a while, they're like, oh God, he's talking about that thing again. So you go to your meetups, you go to your conferences, and you don't have any of that because immediately everybody there's your best friend because you have this common ground. You have this base layer of understanding, whether that be of Bitcoin and NOSTR, and you already have the relationship foundation that you can build off of. And I like to call them, it's their family time, really, because I go to conferences to meet people and to network and build relationships and have fun with friends and family. I do speak at conferences. I do have, solo talks or panels, but as a speaker, I'm going to say I watch a few other speakers, a few other friends. I go and I support them. But the vast, vast, vast majority of my time at these conferences isn't sitting in front of the main stage. Sorry, conference goers and conference producers, but I go there as a central location to network and talk and meet with like-minded folks, because you just love that high energy and high signal. And like I said, everybody there is your best friend, or it feels like family. So throughout the day, I have a couple um, stage talks that I want to go and see that person talk, support them if they're a friend, or I'm thinking they're going to talk about something new and exciting and I want to, get in on it. But I don't spend all day in front of the stage. I said the vast majority of my time is spent where the real conference happens. And I think the real conference happens outside those meeting rooms. The real conference is in the hallways or in the expo area or outside the conference halls while you're getting a beer or you're getting some food, or meeting some people that, you've met online and you would like to put some faces with some avatars, and you're getting beer and food together in the evening. I think it's a great way to just strengthen these types of relationships. And over the past year and a half, even going back before NOSTR, the past 3 years or so, running around Bitcoin Twitter and NOSTR together, just going to conferences and meeting people, it really strengthened a lot of these relationships. And so many people that I've met over the years, I really do consider them, dear friends and, close friends. And I can't wait to, see them again. So in summary, if you can go to a conference, do it. And if you can't, what local meetups, right? If you can't find a local meetup, start your own, right? Like, hey, even if it's one or two people in your, local town, city, whatever region, just get a couple local people together and build interest over time. Like I'm working on that right now, because where I live, there's not too many people that are into NOSTR or Bitcoin. And I found one guy, he's become a good friend, and him and I are now planning, in the very, very early stages of planning a NOSTR meetup. And we've had a couple Bitcoin meetups over the past year or so. So if you can put it together, go ahead and work on it, because I believe that we need to focus on this base social layer.
So cool. So again, speaking of this social layer, how did you find yourself? And I couldn't agree more. Again, I should double down on this, because it's the community aspect, the conferences, everything are so important. It was really like the people you meet, like you said, it's incredible. The first conference I went to a few years ago, it was like, wow, these people do exist, right? Like in real life, yeah. I didn't know people thought like me, right? So it's really something a Bitcoiner needs to do, and building community, because it's the number one thing in a survival situation is community. It's not actually Bitcoin. It's not gold. It's not food. It's not, whatever. It's who are the people who are going to help me when in my time of need, or help me up with the areas I'm lacking. So that cannot be understated. In saying all that, where does NOSTR come into, like, where did it come into your purview at? Like, how did you come into being such a voice for NOSTR and really being, someone leading that charge?
So, I joined NOSTR during the, we like to jokingly call it the jacketing, when Jack Dorsey in December of 22, he posted on Twitter saying, "Hey, Bitcoiners, you should check out NOSTR, right? You think you may be interested in it." And I checked it out and then realized a lot of the same ethos kind of aligns, and just kind of used that as an opportunity to build. I've always, I'm a tech guy by day and by night, I guess, too. I always wanted to do, something with Bitcoin over the past few years, and NOSTR allowed me to take some of my skills and start a Bitcoin adjacent business. So I started offering services, paid in Bitcoin, and the services enhanced various NOSTR experiences, and just added some bells and whistles and some features to some of the early clients. So, and that kind of made me in the beginning, beginning back in like December 2022, January 2023, in the early days, I was selling these services. So people were chatting with me, be like, hey, go to Derek for this service. And then when they came to me for that service, it was, hey, Derek, you seem to be knowing how a lot of things on Nostr work. Can you help me out? And there for the first like couple months with Nostr plebs, I kind of became like a de facto tech support for a lot of people. And I love that. I love helping people with technology. So that was fine. And then it just got really, really crazy where my DMs on Twitter and my DMs on Nostr were just on fire because my service, nostrplebs.com, we had thousands of users sign up for it. I think we have like 6,000 or so users. But it was really crazy because I didn't expect that to happen. So I became popular in the beginning of this Nostr onboarding as somebody that was willing to help people, somebody that was a service provider, and somebody that knew about how a lot of the clients and services worked and was willing to help people. So that kind of, I guess, threw me in the spotlight of somebody. And like I said, I like to talk and I like to community build. So I was very active, and that just kind of led one thing to another. I went to Nostrica, the first Nostr conference, to talk about Nostr. And for some reason, people liked what I was saying, and then that led to, hey, come speak at my Bitcoin conference about Nostr. Hey, come to this meetup and speak about Nostr. And it just kind of spidered into something. I didn't really expect it. I enjoy it. I love it. I'm passionate about Nostr. So I don't know, last year I kind of said, well, you know what? I'm going to embrace this. If people need someone to come and talk about Nostr and why it's important, I think I understand that. I think I can do this, and I like to talk, as I keep saying. So let's just, fuck it. Let's just do it. So I started aligning myself with that, saying, hey, I can come and speak at your conference about why I think Nostr is important, and started doing podcast interviews and shows and all sorts of stuff. It just kind of all fell together, and I very thankful. Like I use a lot of my free time to do this, but I think it's great because as I get to spread Bitcoin and Nostr, two things I'm very passionate about, and I get to meet all sorts of amazing people around the world. And sometimes my family is able to travel with me and to these exotic places. Like my kids have been to Costa Rica, and something that I've traveled more in the past 2 years than I've traveled the previous 40. Like that's no joke. Like I'm 44 years old, and because of Bitcoin and Nostr over the past 2 years, I've traveled more places. I mean, I've been to Europe 3 times in the past year. Never been to Europe before. Like I've been to Costa Rica twice in the past year and a half. Never been to Latin America before. Like it's just it's a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of hard work too, right? Because I have a normal job, a normal day job. I work, and so I kind of work one job, and then I was like, okay, now it's time to start the passion project in the evenings, like, so it's a lot of free time goes towards this, but I think it's worth it because ultimately I feel that, if someone's going to build a future, and they might not build a future that I want, so we need to dedicate our time and our energy to build the future that we want for ourselves and, for our loved ones, for our kids. So I think it's all worth it if it's going to build a better world for them.
Yeah, that's so cool. I think is that an underappreciated line that you just said, that everything we see, at least it's man-made, was a thought, an idea from some other human being. The building you go to work in, or the house you live in, or whatever, right? It was a human and it's like, someone's going to build that, so you might as well be the one to build the life you want to see. Boy, is that underappreciated. I love that you just said that. That's
thank you. And I think that a lot of people look at it as, I'm not a developer, what can I do? And in the Bitcoin space and NOSTR, and they look at these technological tools and services that people were using, and they're like, well, I don't know how to code or program, so I can't do that. What can I do? Well, I think that it just starts at the basic level with, building your community, right? Like, maybe you can't write an application, but maybe you can have a monthly meetup in your community, and you can organize that, and you can just start getting people together that are interested in talking about these freedom, technology tools and services. Maybe you can do that. Maybe you can support in other capacities too. Like, I think that if you really want to will it into existence, you can find some way to contribute. Maybe it's posting a dank meme or a shit post on a daily basis. Like, you got to build however you can.
Oh man, I love that. That's the one thing I didn't appreciate, because now, I mean, I helped Aladdin co-found Bitcoin trading cards. Like, I didn't understand or appreciate art and memes like I do now. Last 2, 3, 4 years, there's being into Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the thing for me that really got me to appreciate art and memes and understand that. What else? Like, what have you learned from? I don't even NOSTR. It could be Bitcoin, NOSTR. That's a really profound one for me, actually. I just, the power of one meme. Again, that's an underappreciated thing in and of itself. I think a lot of us that do understand it now don't even appreciate it like we should. It's like, what are the thing like that, I guess, from NOSTR or from Bitcoin that you've really just found profound over the last year or two, where you're just like, holy cow, this is something I just didn't completely change my mind on it, or underappreciated it.
So some memes, in the past, I looked at, and maybe you smirk or you shake your head at, but sometimes there's some talented individuals out there that have a way with words and find the perfect meme that, it's a passive aggressive approach sometimes, right? Like, they're not going to come out and be like, hey, this is the problem, but they're going to let you draw your own conclusion based off of what you're seeing and interpreting. And when someone's able to really do that, you can connect the dots sometimes. And you're like, oh, you used humor to make me understand what the problem is here. Like, okay. And it's entertainment. I think that, we shouldn't get all of our news from memes, but I think that the perfect memes allow us to dig a little deeper and to think, through humor. So I love memes now, man. I'm a big fan of memes. Memers are content creators, right? Like, and for some reason, I get memed since I have a lot of followers on NOSTR. People see me post my photos all the time, and people turn me into memes and shit, and they just go to town with it, and I'm literally like dying laughing and have like tears in my eyes, and my wife's like, why are you laughing like a little girl? Just giggling and just dying, and I'm just like, no, you need to see this. And I show her, and she just shakes her head and laughs. Like, like, memes are great.
Amazing.
They bring smile to people's faces, and then you're really a content creator. So good memes can earn decent amount of sats too, for value for value. I see memers all the time posting funny memes, and shit posts, and getting good sats for it. I like a meme, give you 1,000 sats here and there. Like, it's a nice way to get paid for entertainment. But I think that NOSTR is the perfect way to do that. We didn't have that before. Like, sure, you could have paid someone on Twitch or with Patreon, or there were a few subscription models out there, but they're very niche, and Bitcoiners didn't really use them. So I think it's beautiful that we can zap with somebody with Bitcoin, because we understand the value of Bitcoin. So when you can give somebody a little bit of Bitcoin for their newsworthy or humor worthy meme, it's that much better.
How have you, because this has now gone on with the wallets just in the last year, obviously, just people leaving the United States, government coming after people, etc. Right? I mean, how is this? Because NOSTR was one. They weren't the first, I guess. You had like Parler years ago. I mean, like we can see like apps being taken out of the App Store. These things are happening. Obviously, NOSTR had to deal with the zaps and what was going on there. How is that? How do you see all that playing out? I guess, and what has been the ramifications? I guess over the last 6 months. I will
tell you, as somebody that loves to onboard people to NOSTR, it's made it fucking hard. Like, not that we always wanted everybody to use Wallet of Satoshi, because you don't want have everybody use the same wallet. Not that you wanted to have everybody use Phoenix, or insert a wallet that decided to leave the United States. Like, not that we wanted to have everybody use those 4 or 5, but man, how bad of a user experience is it to onboard somebody that doesn't know anything about Bitcoin? They just heard about NOSTR. They thought, oh, it's cool, I can take my social graph with me. Oh, it's censorship resistant, it's decentralized. Okay, whatever reason they join NOSTR, they set up their portable digital social identity. They hear about a way to earn money, and they think that's awesome. You can earn money and send money through NOSTR. And then all of a sudden I'm like, hey, listen, that wallet I had you use for the past month or two? You can't use it anymore. I'm sorry, that sucks. Oh, hey, 2 months later, that alternative I told you to use because there was some problem? Yeah, now you can't use that either. Like, there's a bartender in my town that I onboarded to Bitcoin because he heard me talk about it. He's like, Derek, you know what? You talk about Bitcoin, I'd like to start, doing like a buy like every paycheck or so. And I talked to him about it for a while, and I said, you know what, man, you do that, I will start tipping you every time I come in here. I will tip you in Bitcoin. And I said, you know what, if you join NOSTR, I will post your profile and say you're my bartender, and you'll get more like sats because we want to onboard. And he thought it was so cool. He got tons and tons of Bitcoin. And then one day I went into the brewery and I said, hey, you use Wallet of Satoshi, you can't use that anymore on your iPhone. And he's like, well, why? And I said, it's really complicated, man. Let me just set you up with something else. This will be better. You're in control of this wallet. It's called Phoenix. You can run it, and I get him set up with that. And then like 6 months later, I'm like, hey, man, listen, like that other wallet I told you that you'd be in control? Yeah, you're not in control. They decided to leave the United States. So, you know what? Fuck it. I set him up with Strike, and people will give me shit because, oh, you're setting him up to get rugged again with KYC and all this other stuff. But you know what? No, I want him to use something that is going to continue to work. Strike has licenses all over the United States. They're KYC'd out the ass. Strike's not going to go away. Fingers crossed. But it's horrible to be able to have to do this. Like, I'm not going to tell him to run a node. He doesn't need to run a node just because he wants to get tips. Like, that's insane. So the point of my rant is that it's making it harder, and it sucks because at the end of the day, people just want something that is easy. And if I tell people that something is better, I say, oh, Bitcoin and NOSTR is better, you need to use it, and here's why it's better. The current system sucks. Then they're going to come back and say, yeah, but I can't figure this out. And the old system, you say it sucks, but I was able to tap a button and it worked. I didn't have to reinstall a new app, or didn't have to go to the hardware store and buy a computer to run a node. Like, it's kind of disheartening. But, I think that all the people that are building on Bitcoin and NOSTR, they realize that, that this is happening. They're trying to come up with solutions. They understand that onboarding and having people switch wallets and wallets disappear sucks, and there's a big initiative to do better. Like Primal right now has a built-in wallet, so you don't have to tell people to install a separate wallet. Primal uses the Strike infrastructure. Strike's probably going to be around for a while, and it's widely supported in a lot of places, except for New York State and Canada. But a lot of places Strike's supported, so you can use Primal in a lot of places. But other talented developers like Pablo are working on using Cashew, for NOSTR. We just need something that just works, or not everybody's going to use it. So I don't know. I hopefully, you have me back on here next year and I'm like, Brandon, the amount of solutions people build are amazing. User experience is great. It's unruggable now. And it's just, tap a button and it just works. But I'll use the cliche and say we're still early. Hopefully things get better.
I think Bitcoiners, NOSTRs, people all over like in these spaces, I think are so getting so sick of hearing we're early. I
mean, we're not fucking early. It's been 15 years. Like,
oh man, it's so
a good
true.
Cop out. He's like, we're early.
Yeah, right. It's like I can't predict the future. I don't know. We're early. Yeah, exactly. Oh man, what has you most excited with NOSTR? It could be Bitcoin too, I guess. But what has you most excited with where you've seen the development go just the last year and a half of these decentralized protocols being built, the user growth? I would love for you to kind of speak on that a little bit, because I feel like there's some people. And I could probably be included in that, even where it feels like sometimes like NOSTR or, it's a black box. Like, I don't really know what's going on. I don't know where to look, because we're so used to the fiat world of like, well, I can go here. It's a publicly traded company. I can find out this very easily, So I feel like there's a little bit of that where people maybe are a little bit lagging on their, whatever they need to do. Like, I'm not even at the end, I'm going to have you like, you have the whole protocol to get verified. I'm not even freaking verified on NOSTR yet. And I've had it for, over a year. And I, go in there and I know I need to spend even more time in there. Jeff Booth is yelling at me earlier today. Again, it's, you got to spend more time. And I know I need to. And it feels like Bitcoin, right? Like I should have bought more 10 years ago, right? Like, so what is like, where do you see things going? Where, like, can you speak to, like, again, the growth of things, where things have come from? Because there's some of those challenges like we just talked about, but some of the positives, some of the huge things that are happening, the growth, etc. I'd love for you to kind of touch on that and hit the other side. We talked the negative, but what's the...
So, we're early and NOSTR doesn't have millions of people using it. And sometimes, if you don't follow a whole lot of people, you may not have a whole bunch of new content to interact with. So people will think NOSTR's dead. And you know what? There's only maybe, I don't know, somewhere around 35,000 daily active users right now. That's not a whole lot, and I understand that. But if you look at the larger picture, like you did, years ago with Bitcoin, when nobody used Bitcoin, but you look at the larger picture and you see what NOSTR allows you to do. The fact that you can take your identity from one app to another and sign in and have your content, your follows, the people that are following you, everything, your entire social graph, all of your data just be there is wild. Like, you can't sign into Facebook and then all your Twitter followers are there and you just have a slightly different experience, right? You can't sign into YouTube and all your social graph is there. It's just a little bit different. Like, that doesn't work. All these social platforms that are incredibly popular and have 1 billion users, they're very, very siloed and you can't leave their ecosystem. You can't. But NOSTR allows you to bounce around the ecosystem with a portable digital social identity. That's really powerful.
I don't know tons about, the DID world, just a little bit, but what kind of role do you see NOSTR playing in that world? A world that, again, where, you have health passports and vax passports and all these crazy things we're getting into and society wants to get themselves into. And then at the same time, you've got the decentralized ID crowd, the cypherpunk, kind of crowd, just saying, hey, this is the way we're going. I mean, what kind of role do you see Nostr playing in just being intertwined with that world? Like you said, you have to take the social graph and go move that around, and now you're not just siloed off.
Yeah.
How do you see that all kind of coming together?
Well, I think that Nostr is a decentralized ID that you control. It may not be your traditional DID, and there are multiple companies working on different types of DIDs, but Nostr's similar. Like it allows you to be in control of your identity, and you can run your own Nostr server or a Nostr relay, and you can store that identity, and you control your contact list and everything, and it's portable. So it's very similar to decentralized IDs. But I think that when people think about taking these, and you mentioned, maybe there's a medical use case, do you want your Nostr ID to be tied to, your medical records? Well, you can create multiple, right? Like I could have my private ID that I only use for maybe my medical records or something like that. And then I have my public social one. You can create as many IDs as you want. I don't necessarily know I would want everything to be tied together in that aspect. I think there is actually a medical NIP, a Nostr implementation possibility out there. It was never merged. I don't think it was approved yet, but somebody was looking to do medical data over Nostr. Veeder was the developer of Amethyst. I think it's still in progress. Every once in a while he talks about it, but I'm not an expert on the DIDs, so I don't really want to say anything incorrect, but I'll say that I don't see why Nostr couldn't be used as the identity layer for all of our applications. And if you don't want to commingle your social data with your medical data, you can just create a second set of keys for that use case.
Wild world we are entering. That's for dang sure. What is, in transitioning a little bit here, what was your Bitcoin story? Like, when did you hear about money first, like as a kid growing up or your teens? Where did you go to school at? What was your 2-minute story on how you found Bitcoin and just kind of your evolution to finding Bitcoin and understanding it?
My Bitcoin story is interesting. I mined Bitcoin back in 2009. I had no clue what it was.
Yeah.
I played the video game World of Warcraft way too much. If you ask my wife, played it way too much. And I had a gamer buddy on there in World of Warcraft that said, hey, you should check out this thing. It's pretty new. It's called Bitcoin. Download this and install it. 2009, I downloaded it on my gaming PC. I installed it and I ran it for a few months. And then after a few months, I said, that I don't know what this thing does besides keep my computer running 24/7. It makes my office hot, and I have to turn it off every time I want to raid. So I'm going to uninstall it and fuck off for a few years. And I did. I uninstalled it, didn't look back, didn't care about Bitcoin at all until 2013, I believe, when Dogecoin came out. I saw people talking about Dogecoin on Reddit, and I said, oh, hey, that reminds me of that Bitcoin thing from a few years ago I used to run. All right, this is cool. This is fun. So I built some Dogecoin miners, and I mined Dogecoin. And then I sold the Dogecoin for Bitcoin because I knew Bitcoin was better. I knew Dogecoin was a meme, at least. Like it was just a meme. It wasn't supposed to be serious, but I knew I could sell it for Bitcoin, and I sold it for Bitcoin. And then like 2014, the crash happened, and I saw my value of the Bitcoin going down in US dollars. I didn't know what was going on. So I was like, oh shit, gotta sell it. So I sold, and then kind of didn't care about Bitcoin again until like 6 years later in 2020. I saw the monetary policy of the world expand, and and knew there was some weird stuff going on, and started looking into what money was. You asked about school. Like, you don't really teach you how to spend money, I guess, in school, but don't maybe so some basic accounting, I guess, but didn't really understand the properties of money. I just knew that it wasn't good to continue to print money and hand money out and give money away, and it's like, well, this is going to cause everything to inflate, and this isn't good. So I started looking into what money was and refound Bitcoin, and was like, okay, let's study Bitcoin finally. I think I'm finally now ready, 10 years later, and kind of dove in head first, and, been here ever since. Those coins are gone, by the way. Like my Mind coins from 2009, they're gone. That hard drive is destroyed. Back then, whenever I would get new disk drives, I would take them apart and take out the spinning platter and make like mirrors out of them and designs out of them. So yeah, those metal platters were physically destroyed by me and are long gone. So I made a donation to the network. I have no clue how many coins I had back then, but everybody is welcome.
Wow.
I made yours more rare.
That's incredible. That is wild. I mean, I love hearing people's stories too, because part of it too is like that helps a normie or someone that doesn't even understand Bitcoin. It puts things into perspective, and I think it's good for all of us to hear these stories. Everyone's different story, because it just jives or resonates with someone differently, and I think that's huge.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, everybody eventually figures it out if you want to put the time into it. It may seem confusing because it is. It may seem different because it is. But listen to the people that have literally spent years and thousands of hours doing this research, and listen to what they say. There's podcasts, there's books.
Yeah.
Just start listening, and all these questions have already been asked over the years, and there's so many people that are willing to help and help you understand. So now,
have you ever seen a more humbling space than Bitcoin? I mean,
Yeah.
like seriously, like you said, your story it's humbling. It's, you always hear, I don't know if it's Kaiser or who it was. He was like, I came in, or I don't know who it was now. And they're like, I thought of all these things, and then sure enough, Bitstein wrote about it already years before, like, right.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's like you said,
all these doubts and questions and what ifs have been asked by hundreds of people, 1,000 times over. So like, people are going to have the answers. Just ask, and people want to help. People want to help out. I think that it's almost overwhelming for a new person sometimes, because they start asking questions, and then all of a sudden they're getting 30 books to read, 50 podcast episodes, and they're like, holy shit, like, I don't,
Fire
it's
hose.
too much. It's information overload. What do I do?
So amazing. So in saying that, we're all the marketing arm of Bitcoin, in a sense, right? I mean, it's a human system, and Bitcoin itself could run for thousands of years on its own, as Saylor often talks about. At the same time, it's a human system. If we don't adopt it, it doesn't matter at the end of the day if humans don't care for it, or don't care for sound money or whatever it is. So who do you think is doing the best at marketing? I guess, is it a person? Is it a company? Is it,
man,
groups
Bitcoin
of people?
has so
like,
many
who do
good
you kind of
marketers.
look to? And could be the means, I guess, right? Like, does Bitcoin need to do a better job? It's like, how come it hasn't caught on? I was talking to, Bitstein before, actually, and he was always like, man, the one mistake we made, he's like, we were just too bullish. Like, we thought, oh, this is beautiful. Like, people will just catch on like this year, and this will be amazing. It'll take off and go. So it's like a paradox, right? Like,
I really like Matt Odell. He has amazing nuanced takes on things, and is very cool and calm, and takes the time to think his responses through. And when he makes a mistake, he admits it. I admire him, and I think his content that he puts out there, on NOSTR only, and all caps on NOSTR, but he has some great takes, interviewing Bitcoiners, and interviewing people building on NOSTR for his podcasts. And I think I think he does a great job explaining, all the different thoughts surrounding freedom technology. I'm really a fan of him.
Yeah, same.
I think he's a good, he's a good marketing person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same. I couldn't agree more. It's a great one. What do you? So when Bitcoin, and this is different for everybody, but the principle of this in a way, like what are you into outside of Bitcoin? I know you said, I know you're a tech guy and stuff like that. But like for me, like I come from the real estate. I love real estate, and I left real estate to be in Bitcoin a handful of years ago. And so like I actually can't wait for the day where I can have tenants that pay me back in Bitcoin. That's when I'll know the business cycle is really healed, and maybe that type of Bitcoinization, I don't know, it depends what people will call it, but that to me is like, I want to own a Walgreens or a bunch of Walgreens or whatever. And then I'm paid back in Bitcoin and produce more, produce for society too, in that physical world, and then bring that around. What is it for you? So say Bitcoin's 10 million a coin, or say it's 100 million a coin. What would you be doing at that juncture when you're like, hey, wealth is not a thing. Like it is I can do whatever I want. What will you be investing in or spending your time, I guess is a better word for it?
I've actually thought about this a lot over the past year as the economy is gone for a little bit of a downturn, and things are getting more expensive. And I live in a small town, in rural America, and I look at businesses that close or businesses that struggle, and I look at infrastructure that needs to be repaired and dilapidated buildings in my town. And I've said to my wife, I was like, man, someday, like it would be so amazing to buy this building and renovate it and be able to revitalize part of my town's, downtown infrastructure, or set up some type of, funding system to be able to do that. But that's one thought I've had. Obviously giving back to people that are building, I think, that are allowing us to take advantage of, these tools and services. I think supporting developers is huge, because it's really tough out there for a developer, whether that be a land developer or a software developer. So yeah, I think just supporting people that need it most. I think that I would love to do that. I would love to be able to say, hey, I gave money to be able to have this infrastructure built in my town, and it's they're all Bitcoin businesses, and they accept Bitcoin, they promote Bitcoin, and they pay me in Bitcoin. I think that would be great. That would be very interesting. I don't know if I will do that, but I've thought about it over the years.
That's so cool. What have you been reading lately? I always love asking people too, again, just picking people's brains, and, smart people and people I respect and admire. I mean, what are you reading, to become you, or what have you, it could be in the past too. I mean, what have you read in the past? Personal development. Are you into that stuff? What are you reading lately? It could be outside of Bitcoin. What are you kind of studying recently?
I have a goal, but to teach myself more. So like I said, I'm not a developer. I'm a systems guy. I run infrastructure, run application, application servers, database servers, all that fun geeky stuff. But years and years ago, I did like basic development stuff, and I'm not a full stack developer. I can write code to get my job done, but I would never consider myself a application developer. I can write scripts here and there. Anyways, I would love to read and study and teach myself to be able to do actual development. But that's boring talk. So every day when I run over the past couple weeks, I've been listening to Mandibles, because Odell he's been talking about that book for years, and and I wanted to read it, but I don't have time to read. So I've been trying to kill two birds with one stone per se here, and I've been listening to the Mandibles audiobook whenever I go for a run. But other books, I don't really do a whole lot of reading anymore outside of the Bitcoin ecosystem. Over the years, I guess most recently I read Lynn Alden's Broken Money. It was really good. Safe Dean's Bitcoin Standard and Fiat Standard, and oh man, I read them all. Seventh Property by Eric Yates is really good. The quotes from like Mike Tyson and that always made me laugh. There's so many good books out there.
That's so cool. What's the we're getting towards the end here? What's your message to your younger self? And it can't be buy Bitcoin.
Yeah. No, it would be like understand what you're mining, dumbass.
Damn it, Derek. That was a workaround. You're not supposed to say that.
All right. A message to my younger self that has nothing to do with Bitcoin. How about that?
Yeah.
I would say trust your instincts.
That's so good.
Your instincts are instincts for a reason, and
so
if your instincts are wrong, that's okay. Use it as a growing tool. Use it for growth, so it doesn't repeat itself and doesn't happen again.
I love that. I really love that. I was just talking to Jeff earlier about that, about frameworks, and if you have, you're using your gut, your instinct, or have a framework, and then you can have something. If you're wrong, like you said, you just nailed it too. I mean, same thing he said. You can polish it, you can refine it, you can, So yeah. I love that.
Like I tell my kids that all the time. I said it's okay to make mistakes. Like I make mistakes every day. It's what you do that's how, with that information. You use it to grow. You use it as a growth opportunity, and don't make the mistake again.
So cool. I love that. Okay, awesome. And in wrapping here, I'll play a little game, word association game presented by Bitcoin Trading Cards. So this will be a little lightning round. Go through, I don't know, I've got 15 or something like that, 15, 18 words. So just you can give a one word answer, a lightning round, or it could be a couple words if you want, and whatever comes to mind, I guess, more of the story. So let's rock and roll here. Satoshi Nakamoto.
Institute.
Love it.
I was just reading about it yesterday. Satoshi Nakamoto Institute. That's what.
I know. We had a Bidstein mention earlier too. So, Cypherpunk.
Adam Back.
Community.
Build.
Women in Bitcoin.
We need more of them.
Travel.
Opportunity.
Michael Saylor.
He needs to use NOSTR.
Yeah, there you go. Yes. Wow, great answer. Vitalik Buterin.
Shitcoin.
Faith.
God.
Privacy.
A human right.
U.S. presidential election.
America loses no matter what happens.
Central banking.
And the Fed.
Family.
The most important thing.
Like that. Free speech.
NOSTR.
Nice. Elon Musk.
Shaking my head. I mean, could that be my
answer?
Counts?
That counts.
Yeah.
We'll accept it. We'll accept it.
I used to like him, man. I hate him now. Anyways, that's too long of an answer.
No, that's the common thing I get, which is like I can make an argument for and against him. That's in essence the general answer I actually get. Like yeah. So, all right, where are we? Here we go. This is the either or. So two of them here, either or. Stainless steel or cast iron?
I'm a cast iron maxi.
Oh, like that. Creed's higher or pump it up?
Pump it up.
Bitcoin trading cards.
There's a oh man, the first word that comes to mind. I have them. They're right over here. Yeah. Stack chain.
Oh, have not had that answer yet. And lastly, NOSTR.
Social glue.
I like that. Derek, thank you so much for coming on today. Where can people find you?
You can find me on NOSTR. I recently deleted all of my other socials, so you can't find me on anywhere else. Just Derek Ross at nostrplebs.com is my NOSTR address. You can find me there. Search for that. It's the only Derek Ross at nostrplebs.com.
Absolutely love it. Thank you, sir, for being a playable character in a sea of non-playable characters. Thank you for your time, sir. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for checking out this episode of the Playable Characters Show, brought to you by Bitcoin Trading Cards. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the future Bitcoin and financial experts we have on the show. Plus, we will be doing random big giveaways throughout different moments of shows of collectible cards, sats, merch, and more from guests, so you won't miss anything. This show does not constitute any investment advice, only freedom advice. Everything you see here is opinions from the host and the guests themselves, nothing further. Please don't trust, verify. For full transparency, I do lead marketing efforts at Bitcoin Trading Cards, where we are trying to spread freedom to all of humanity and orange pill the world one collectible physical trading card at a time by making things fun and easy to talk about that normally make you want to cry. You can reach me directly through my email, brandon@btc-cards.com, with any inquiries or playable character suggestions. See you on the next one.